This is an NBC 10 Decision 2024 update.
And welcome back inside Studio B, where in most of the local races there are no surprise, but when it comes to the presidential race, it could be a long, long night. Welcome to our special digital 2024 election coverage. I'm Dan James.
And I'm Emily Vols. Of course, we are bringing you updates throughout the night on all the local races. And right now we are hearing from some of the winning candidates for the first time. We want to go right out to NBC 10 political reporter Brian Crandall. He joins us live from the Graduate Hotel in Providence. Brian?
Yeah, Emily, well, it's an empty room here, the ballroom here at the Graduate Hotel in downtown Providence, where the Democrats basically celebrated for 2 hours, from just after 8 o'clock when the polls closed until just about 10 o'clock. They heard from their winning candidates. No surprises. Seth Magaziner wins a second term in Congress. Gabe Amo wins a first full term after winning a special election a year ago. And Senator Sheldon Whitehouse wins a fourth term after first being elected in 2006. Let's hear from him now.
But my greatest gratitude this evening goes out to the people of Rhode Island. Thank you so much for putting your trust in me for another term in the United States Senate. This really means the world to me. I know that these choices are not easy, and I am extraordinarily grateful to all of you who voted for me. And even if you didn't vote for me, I'm still going to work for you.
The White House, Amo, Magaziner all win by comfortable margins, as expected. We also heard from the statewide office holders here, the general officers, though they're not on the ballot this year. That's up in 2 years. And again, they've left here now because it was all settled to go home and presumably watch the results on the national level, the presidential election, and who controls the House and the Senate. So the party's wrapped up here. We'll have a full wrap-up coming up on NBC 10 News at 11. Dan, Emily, back to you.
All right, Brian, the party's over where you are, but a lot of celebration, of course. Rhode Island 1st Congressional District Democrat Gabe Amo, as Brian said, won his first full term in office. He replaces former David Cicilline, who is a long-term powerhouse in national and local politics.
And in Rhode Island's 2nd Congressional District, Democrat Representative Seth Magaziner holds on to his seat for a second term. He beat out his Republican challenger, Stephen Corby, who was a college professor.
There is one thing to note here is that even though Magaziner and Whitehouse, well, Magaziner up against really kind of a no-name, right? Right now, I mean, that person had a pretty good showing tonight. And Patricia Morgan, considering she spent about $2,000, had a pretty good showing against Senator Whitehouse, too. So it's just kind of interesting, the political tide here and across the country. And with that said, all the Republicans, or at least most of them, gathered in Warwick.
Yeah, NBC 10's Gabrielle Caracciolo joins us from the Event Factory. Hey, Gabrielle.
Yeah, still pretty active watch party here for the Rhode Island Republican Party. And I'm joined by Representative Mike Chippendale, the House Minority Leader who won re-election tonight. As you look to another session in the General Assembly, what do you see as the priorities for the Republican Party?
For the Republicans, our priority is going to be getting spending under control, because as we've seen, the deficit's looking pretty large right now. We have to get our control on spending. We have to understand where it's going to be best invested to get return for the people of Rhode Island. I don't think we're doing that right now. So I think it's going to require a really hard look at how we're allocating these funds and how we're spending them, and where we place our priorities.
And when it comes to the local ballot, the Republicans were really championing the Constitutional Convention. It does not look like that's going to happen. What's your reaction? Is there a way to accomplish some of the other goals that you had hoped for through that convention and other means?
Certainly there are. I mean, legislatively, we can do whatever we can do with the Constitutional Convention. It's just a little bit of a different process. You know, it's not an overall surprise that it's not going to pass tonight. We haven't had one since 1986, and the people feel very guarded about the Constitution. I understand that, and I appreciate that. But yeah, certainly the things, primarily for us, Inspector General, the Office of the Inspector General is our biggest initiative that we were hoping through the Constitutional Convention we would be able to get passed. However, we can still do it legislatively, and that's where our efforts are going to be.
And then when it comes to just the room tonight, there's a lot of focus on the presidential election. We've seen as different states have been called, some cheers and excitement in the room. What is your feeling as we kind of watch these results come in? We don't know if we'll have an answer tonight, but what's the feeling amongst the Republicans here?
You know, it's cautiously optimistic. it's a new age with elections. We're seeing states that take longer to return, and unfortunately, some of these are swing states. So we may not know tonight, and that leaves people a little bit anxious. And I understand that, and I'm anxious as well, right? You know, we want to have an answer tonight, one way or the other. But we're optimistic. We've been talking to people since June. We've been out on the street. We've been meeting with our constituents, talking to Rhode Islanders, and there's a lot of energy supporting the Republican initiatives and, frankly, supporting President Trump. Now, granted, he's not going to win Rhode Island, but we're seeing this throughout the nation where there is still a strong surge. No matter what they've thrown at him, he still seems to hold on to the popularity he needs to at least stay competitive, and right now he's very competitive.
Representative Chippendale, thanks for your time. We're going to keep an eye here at the Republican Watch Party, and we'll have more coming up tonight at 11. For now, we're live in Warwick. Gabrielle Caracciolo, NBC 10 News.
Obviously, a different atmosphere there than where Brian was, where the Democrats should probably still be there.
Yeah.
So those Democrats don't like to party too much. You raised an interesting point, which I want to touch on, that Senator Chippendale mentioned, is about the error or the margin of votes in the Kent County, for instance, for Harris and Trump. Pretty close.
Kent County, it went for Biden in 2020.
Right.
It has flipped for Trump in 2024, and across the state, the margin is much tighter than it was in 2020. That being said, we saw some ads from Trump on TV. We saw very little from Harris in Rhode Island. That's
true. That is true. That is very, very true. We want to cover all the races, of course, here at NBC 10. We cover all of Southern New England, and that means another big Senate race in Massachusetts. We're talking, of course, about Elizabeth Warren coasting in.
Leanna Falk joins us live from the Sawa Power Station in Boston tonight, where Warren claimed victory. Hey, Leanna.
Yeah, Dan, Emily, we're live still here at the SOA Power Station in South Boston, where Senator Elizabeth Warren supporters heard her victory speech just moments ago. In her nearly 20-minute address, she thanked her family and obviously the voters for returning her back to Capitol Hill for a third term. Warren pledged to keep fighting for the key issues they named them as affordable health care, student debt relief, and definitely women's health care, for what Warren is saying. Her opponent, Swansea attorney John Deaton, tried to really present himself as a moderate new voice for the GOP here in Massachusetts, but tonight, Massachusetts voters rejected that, re-electing their incumbent.
12 years ago, you took a chance on a candidate who had never run for public office. You sent me to Washington to fight for working people and middle-class families. And time after time, we fought side by side. Over those 12 years together, we have delivered big wins, and more than once, we have reminded people that government can be harnessed to work,
And as the celebration continues here tonight, Senator Warren says the work is far from over as Democrats wait to learn the fate of the national elections. Live in Boston tonight, Leanna Falk, NBC 10 News.
All right, Leanna, thanks so much for that live report. Of course, the AP is calling Mayor Ken Hopkins as the winner in Cranston, although his campaign says they are waiting for the mail-in ballots. He did speak just a little while ago.
I am honored, deeply honored, to have the opportunity to serve another term as your mayor. I am grateful. I am grateful for the support, grateful for the confidence. Tonight's returns are a result of a great team effort in your hard work and dedicated commitment.
And in Warwick, Independent Frank Picozzi holds on to his seat. He has the city's first four-year mayoral term. He beat out Leanne Hazelwood and Patrick Maloney Jr.
No surprises in Pawtucket, where Mayor Don Grebian holds on to his chair as the mayor, the Democrat there. He was seeking an eighth term, beating out Nathan Luciano, chairman of Pawtucket Republican City Committee.
All right, we want to look at some of the ballot questions now. In Rhode Island, there was the talk about the Constitutional Convention. That was rejected by voters. However, the other four ballot questions that looked at funding, those all passed.
Results are still coming in Massachusetts, but we do have a clearer picture of how they might go. Let's get to question number one, which would allow a state auditor to audit the legislature, and that looks like that is going to be a yes.
Elimination of the MCAS as a high school graduation requirement. Again, only 23% reporting right now, but it is looking like they want to get rid of that requirement.
Unionization for transport network drivers like Uber and Lyft drivers. That looks like it's also with 23% reporting ahead, at least at this hour.
The limited legalization of certain psychedelic drugs. Right now, 57% still voting no on this issue.
And of course, minimum wage tip for workers. Obviously, that was a big campaign. Restaurants saying it would drive them out of business. Right now, with 21% reporting, it is a strong no. Of course, we still have a lot more numbers coming in throughout the night. And of course, we'll be updating you on air and online leading up to the 11 o'clock report.
Stay with NBC 10.